here. Welcome back to the New Earth Leadership Summit, where we are helping guide spiritual entrepreneurs to step into their personal power so they can become the leaders of New Earth. And I'm very excited because today I have with me Aaron Abke, who is a spiritual teacher, and he works with people on unity consciousness and self-actualization. And Aaron, I'd love to hear about your story, about how you got to this point where you're teaching these methodologies. How did you get started?
Well, it probably started, really at 27 when I'd gone through this long journey of through religion, growing up as a pastor's kid and wanted to be a pastor like my dad. And then at 23 kind of felt disenfranchised from my religion and said, I don't actually believe a lot of this dogma anymore. So took another 4 years of just really heavily seeking mostly Eastern teachings, Advaita Vedanta, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and really longing for liberation because I was suffering so much for a number of reasons. Getting divorced at 26 from my Christian wife at the time, losing all my friends and family from getting divorced and leaving Christianity. Everyone's like, you're a heretic. Don't ever talk to us, backslidden and all that. So I was like all by myself, living in California, working at Google as a personal trainer, and just dying for freedom from my suffering. So I would go out to the balcony above my gym every day, and I would listen to Eckhart Tolle and Muji and Alan Watts and things to sort of just give me relief for about an hour. I would just, on my lunch break, just listen and eat my food. And there was just this one day, like the planets aligned or whatever. And I was listening to an Eckhart Tolle lecture where he was sort of mimicking things the ego says in our mind and then laughing at them. And the audience would laugh. I would laugh because we all relate to what he's saying, right? Oh, my brain says that. And as I was laughing about each one of these phrases he would say, like, if only people would recognize how special I am, then I would truly be happy. And I would go, oh, that's so good. That's exactly what my ego says. And I'm laughing.
Yeah.
And I sort of laughed myself, I guess, into a kind of satori where I just saw the true nature of things so clearly. This overwhelming, stillness seemed to cover over the whole earth. And it was like I just saw the oneness of everything. And I saw my own oneness with the creator and how I'd been suffering from an illusion, of a tape recorder on a loop in my brain and thinking it was me and suffering. And I'm like, oh, what a ridiculous joke has been played on me. I am that, right? I am the one that I'm seeking.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 weeks straight in this like Buddha state of just, I can't believe reality exists and I am that, and just amazed at everything I saw and couldn't even remember what suffering was or how it was possible to suffer in my past. And then it was 2 weeks to the day I woke up, to make a long story short, and I noticed on my phone that it had been 2 weeks since that experience. And I'd been in this unbroken, enlightened state of consciousness. So this first ego thought came back online and said, wow, I wonder if I am enlightened. I wonder if this is my permanent state of consciousness. And I didn't catch that one. And so the ego slowly crept its way back in to my mind, as it does, right?
Of course.
And I sort of felt like I lost this gift from heaven that was bestowed on me, this free sample of enlightenment. And I'd squandered it like a moron. I'd listened to my ego again and lost it, So having experienced real moksha like that, knowing it is absolutely a real state of consciousness that is attainable for anyone who wants it, it was a huge blessing because, you always look back and see the perfection of the way everything happens. Yeah. And I look back and go, it was so perfect that I lost that state because it gave me this voracious passion and hunger, like tenfold of what I already had, to pursue that state again until I could reintegrate it permanently. Because, you know, once you've tasted that, the nectar of heaven, why would anything else matter? Why would you care about modeling and bodybuilding and all the other stuff I was doing at the time? None of it mattered to me. It was like dust and ashes at my feet. Like, get out of here. You know, all I want is freedom. So I just kind of devoted my waking existence to studying these teachings and practicing them and integrating them into my awareness, so I could slowly kind of back engineer that state of consciousness again, because I could remember it really well. It was 2 weeks of this permanent just bliss consciousness. So it was like, it gave me no more excuses for doing anything else and full devotion to that path. And so out of that just came my YouTube channel, and everything I do now and my courses and stuff have just been a kind of systematic creation of, this is how I have re-engineered that state in myself. Here's how I can teach others how to do it. That's really all that was interesting to me from that point on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're bringing up so many good points, and I'd like to kind of break down some of the things that you said, because one of them actually relates to your latest YouTube video. By the way, people, go to his YouTube channel. It is a wealth of knowledge. He talks about so many different spiritual subjects, and I truly enjoy listening to his show. You bring so much value for free. I mean, it's amazing. So thank you for doing that. And I'd like to tie it back into something that you brought up about your journey. First, can you please share with us what, I'm going to say it wrong, but moksha, is that what you said? Moksha?
Oh yeah. Moksha means liberation in Sanskrit.
Oh, okay. I love that. Okay. And then you had talked about, I love the story about how you're in the bliss state, right? And you're seeing your oneness, your connection, you're seeing you're getting a taste of the totality of who you actually really are. And you got to stay in this place, it seems like, for a period of time before having to return to the third density of what we're going through, and how to actually bring it in to your experience fully. Right? I feel like what we get right now are opportunities to go be in fourth density. We have our fourth density moments, but our goal is to stabilize that so we can stay in that place. So I feel like so many people that I've experienced, I've seen their fourth density nature. I've seen that in them. We just have to learn how to stabilize that. But you were talking about being in this bliss state. So in your latest video, you talk about the 4 states of consciousness. Would you say that you were hanging out in your bliss body during that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I probably was in the bliss body for the beginning, maybe the first few days. And then it really went into the Therese state of even beyond that, of just pure consciousness. Because the bliss body, it's really hard to do anything or interact with anyone. It's much like Eckhart Tolle describes when he had his awakening. He just sat on a park bench for 2 years, like staring at the ducks. Like, that's the bliss body. Eventually consciousness learns how to stabilize that state and go beyond it, which is just pure awareness. And the first 5 days, I was kind of like in the Eckhart state of it was hard to communicate and use words. They felt like clumsy mediums and stuff. It was an experience of no self, where so much so that, like, if I walked by a window at Google with a reflection, I would look and watch this person walking next to me. And then it would the thought would occur, that's my body. And I would go, oh, I'd be startled, I have a body. Right. So it's hard to say, but it was for sure a mix of both.
All right. So to follow up with that, the bliss body, as I understand what you were saying, is that state we experience between awake and asleep, that beautiful, serene, calm place where we have access to so much information. And is it the same as the causal body? Is that are they interchangeable terms? All right.
Yes.
Okay, so that's really interesting, because when you'd said that, immediately I went, oh my gosh, that's where we go in somnambulistic trance, which is the state that Dolores Cannon would take people to, which
Very
would
much
allow
so.
them, right, to experience their subconscious. They'd actually get to talk to higher parts of themselves and get information.
Yes.
So that must have been incredible. I mean, I can just imagine, because I know that moment, right? When you wake up and everything is just, you're not in your story yet. You're sort of in
Yeah.
that neutral observer place. And it is that deep feeling of contentment. I mean, it is, I guess that is bliss, right? That deep feeling of contentment.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cause bliss, there's different ways that bliss can manifest. It can be very ecstatic, but it can also be this, like the bliss of like deep sleep, this very rich, thick bliss, right? Where you're not really, I don't want to talk. I don't want to do anything. I just being is all I'm interested in. That's the causal body. It's like enjoying deep sleep while being fully awake.
Yeah.
So the four bodies is very simply like the three states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, and sleeping. That's all we ever experience is one of those three. That's the physical body, waking state, subtle body, dreaming state, deep sleep, causal body. And then the fourth state, the Therese state, is called the great causal body, which is pure consciousness, where all three states, it's as if they all three just appear and disappear in front of you on a screen that you're watching. They're all three just no different to you. It's like, whatever, I'm the fourth state. I'm pure consciousness. That's the state of the sage, the liberated one, of the Christ, the Buddha. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely seen that in a moment, and it was interesting because it goes right into your unity consciousness that you talk about and that you teach about. And that state, when I got into that moment where it was like everything happening at once, what I was shown, because I'm a clairvoyant person, so I see things visually, but what I was shown was this beautiful, it's hard to describe because it was color and shape, but it was like a puzzle where pieces were going in. I was a piece, and all I had was this deep yearning, longing desire to merge. I just that was all I wanted, was to merge with this energy. And it was so magnetic and so intense. And I want to bring that back to what you teach about unity consciousness. And I'd love for you to just define that for the audience, what you call unity consciousness.
Yeah. Well, you're very right that that's what we all long for, is that unification, that oneness, merging back with our real nature. And so, yeah, you could say unity consciousness is that, being conscious of unity, being aware of unity. Really, it is synonymous with fourth density consciousness, which is the next phase of human consciousness we're currently, painfully and slowly evolving into at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
We're moving out of 3D consciousness, which is separation. We're all separate from one another. We haven't had the best time in that density, right? If we look at our human history, it's been a rough go for us. So that rough go has taught us, hey, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be something higher than this. Surely this can't be the highest vibration in the universe, right? Separation. And that's an important part of our evolution as a soul, is that we have to learn that, yes, this is the reason why oneness is important and matters and should be sought after, because we know what separation brings us. So it's this awareness that we're all that one essence, whether we have different bodies, different nationalities, doesn't matter. It's all the one source, knowing itself in infinite variety of forms, because the source is infinite. So it can't just be one person who looks the same as everyone, because that's boring. And thank God everyone isn't you, right? What a horrible world that would be. So it's like, yeah, the source. I know, it's like, I can't imagine a worse nightmare than just, there's nothing but me everywhere. I need some diversity. Like, that's how the source feels about itself. It's like, I am so infinite. I have to express myself every second in a new way. So that's what it's always doing. So it's like, we have to get on track with that, because that's the way reality is. Yeah. And humanity is, again, just taking our time, learning these kind of basic kindergarten spiritual lessons that will eventually lead us to a world of unbelievable oneness and bliss and happiness that works for everybody and allows everyone to succeed equally. It's so incredibly possible, logistically speaking, but it requires a certain state of consciousness to sustain it.
Absolutely, it does. And you and I are both students of the law of one. We both study this material. So let's talk about, because as we're talking about leadership, and we're going to get into that part where we start talking about leadership. But in the law of one, like you were saying, when we're looking at the third density experience, they call it the choice, which I absolutely love. And I noticed that it's not one singular choice. It's like you have to keep choosing because of the free will. It becomes a practice of choice. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is the density of the choosing. We come here, souls come here because they're ready to decide which polarity they want to be. Mm-hmm. And so that's really where consciousness has the toughest time, is in this middle ground before the choosing of polarity. Like once we become self-aware, we know, hey, I'm a individual being on a journey of evolution, but I don't know which polarity I want to be. That's where suffering exists. Suffering really ends once you've chosen a polarity, positive or negative. And Ra calls the middle ground between the two polarities the sinkhole of indifference.
Yes.
Which is such a great term, right? Like we spend so many lifetimes in that sinkhole, just coming back and reincarnating with all this karma because we haven't really committed. And the reason it sucks is because you have to, unless you've chosen a polarity, the universe says, okay, they haven't made their decision yet. So they still need a 50-50 distribution of positive, negative. And that's where suffering is the friction between positive, negative. You want to be all negative or you want to be all positive. You don't want to have the rub all the time. And so that's when suffering ends, is when you're tired of the rub.
Right. And I've actually heard you talk about, you had mentioned, so you're so good at pulling gems out of the law of one. You have a whole series on your YouTube channel that talks about the law of one. And for those of you who have yet to study or look at the law of one, it's pretty heavy stuff. Like I have to keep going back to the material and reinvesting my energy and you glean more every time. So it's really dense material, but it's amazing and powerful. But what I love that you had pulled out of it is the fact that in third density, we are offered equal catalyst. So there's equal amount positive to equal amount negative. And what my team has shared with me is, you're right. You do want to pick a pole and move there because there's zero, you neutralize your power in the middle, which is why you do experience it. And the poles of power are at the extremes, right? So if you move to either extreme, you start to feel more of your own personal power.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The analogy is like in chemistry, the term work, to do work, means you have to have a polarity. You have to have a charge to do work. Ross says it's the same thing in consciousness. You don't have any real power until you have a polarity, a charge, and then you can do real work in consciousness. This is why supernatural powers just don't manifest for us until we've become polarized, fourth density positive. And fourth density negative, of course, has their own powers too. But really, most of the power lies on the positive polarity, because it's the polarity of the positive is the polarity that radiates. The negative is the polarity that is magnetic and draws into itself. So most of the powers that the negative polarity carries are the powers of deception and manipulation and deceit and things like that to gain control over. But the positive path, it's like telepathy, connection, bilocation, teleportation, levitation. All these amazing powers happen where, just like in a lucid dream, you can basically do whatever you want once you know you're pure energy and you have a charge enough to manipulate that energy. Psychic powers just happen through that. So work is the ability to cause change in consciousness. And to cause change in consciousness, you need to have a polarity in consciousness, right?
That is such a good point. And as you were speaking, what I suddenly understood is that, I do believe that the positive polarity is more powerful. First of all, it's like we're closer to unification if we stand in that polarity. Right. We have and again, in the law of one, they say that is the protected path, because you're in service to all, and therefore you have the protection of all. Whereas the negative path, you have to reject all. It's nothing but you. But what I realized is that on that path, so the negative polarity is constantly absorbing power. If the positive wasn't there to radiate, would the negative have any power at all?
Right, exactly. They have to steal power because they don't produce their own power.
That's right.
It's like David Hawkins' power versus force.
Yeah,
The positive polarity is powerful. The negative polarity has to be forceful because they don't have power.
That's right. I've heard other people talk about, for example, the negative polarity often steals tools from the positive polarity, because when you are in that negative polarity, you are denying your connection with God. You even cut yourself off from the highest power that is, because if to accept God as something higher than you are, you know what I mean? Like their whole thing is hierarchy. I have to be the top of the top.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the thought just like popped. Where was I going with that?
Well, I was wondering if you were going to connect it to like world powers happening now. Like we see that this is a perfect example, right? They can't do anything to us. They don't have any power unless we keep giving it to them by conceding to their propaganda and manipulation tactics. If we don't do that, there's literally nothing they can do. That's a perfect example.
That is a great example. And now I've got it back. So what it was is that, thank you for that. I've got it back. So in order to create, so we're divine creators, we're co-creating with source. In order to create, we must be connected to source, because inspiration is to be inspirited. So source is coming through you. We're an open channel. And because they've closed their channel by their own free will, they cannot get the inspiration from source. They have to steal from what the positive polarity receives. So every tool that they use is an inversion or a manipulation of a divine tool. That's what was coming through. And then you tied it into the present moment so perfectly. So that's what it looks like when we're experiencing it right now.
Yeah, it's as if like that's how the negative path gets their channel from source, is by stealing it and absorbing it everywhere around them. Whereas the positive path, we become the living conduit. Like Ra says, a crystallized being. The crystallized being is like a crystal. It is one singular element. You know, it's pure. There we go. Nice. It so it's been purified, right? It's been balanced and purified. There's no contaminants in it. It is strong without effort. You know, crystals are really hard to break. It is beautiful to behold. It's a conduit for light. It's a focusing channel for light. The crystallized being becomes exactly like that. We can focus light energy. We can channel it. We can contain it. We're beautiful and radiant to behold, strong without effort. That's the crystallized being. And that requires lots of spiritual purification, which is what I'm really interested in teaching about.
Spiritual. So let's go into that then, talk about spiritual purification. Tell us how you're interpreting that. How are you interpreting that?
Yeah. Well, you'll know this because you've seen my spiritual intelligence series, that partway after that experience happened, maybe a couple of years after my awakening and all of that, I'd started to make a lot of progress in my mind, in my awareness, and had begun teaching on YouTube and stuff by then, and started to experience a lot of weird energetic symptoms that I didn't understand. Sometimes like lots of pinpricks of pain through my body, different things of that nature, and did some research online and digging and found that these were, you know, Kundalini ascension symptoms. Like, man, I don't know anything about Kundalini. I got to research this. So I just started buying every book I could find and reading, and Yoga Upanishads, the Yoga Sutras from Patanjali, and modern teachings, Gopi Krishna, Yogi Bhajan, and started reading about people's awakenings and seeing a lot of similarities. And then my own Kundalini activation started happening in a much more dynamic way. So it became really clear to me just through this connection of my own experience that like, oh, I get it. Enlightenment is actually a sort of a state of consciousness that manifests naturally within us once the nervous system has been prepared for it. Because just like I was in bliss for 2 weeks, I thought I did something to screw it up. But the source showed me, no, you didn't do anything. You weren't prepared for it. You didn't have the circuitry and wiring ready to sustain that vibration for long enough. So the nervous system could only conduct that fourth density vibration for so long, and it burnt itself out. Ego came back online. So we have to upgrade our nervous system through purification and cleansing, and really detoxification is what it is. And that is what Kundalini awakening is. It is when someone's nervous system has been either stimulated or gradually activated through spiritual discipline. This dormant fourth density life force energy at the base of the spine starts moving through our nervous system. And sometimes that happens through call it the inner conjunction, which is the lightning bolt event where people have at the top of the crown chakra. That's a really dramatic manifestation of it, but it can also happen gradually. And a lot of times the conjunctions happen many, many times, So through that understanding, I started doing a lot of yoga practices to purify my nervous system, a lot of breath work, a lot of deep meditation, mantra chanting, things like that. And the acceleration just blasted off like a rocket ship. So that's a big part of what spiritual intelligence is moving towards, is teaching that stuff, as well as all the different courses that I offer.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. I cannot wait. Are you going to go into some of your Kundalini practices? Are you going to be sharing that with the public?
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, guys, be sure to sign up to his YouTube channel. You don't want to miss that. That's going to be exciting. All right. So let's take this. It sounds like you're talking about the self-realization you teach about. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's talk about, what does leadership mean in terms of, if we're looking at self-realization, is that leadership, or how would you define leadership?
Great question. Haven't been asked that question before.
Yes.
Score one for Therese. I would define leadership as the ability to stand in who you are authentically, because, everyone is a leader in a sense in some domain, right? Somewhere. Mm-hmm. So when you can be fully embodied in who you are, such that your leadership is an outflow, maybe we could say, of your authenticity, meaning I'm leading from experience, from my own journey. It's not just head knowledge I'm up here giving you. I'm not just here to look cool or have a special position, but a real leader is someone who has walked the walk and has experiential nexus to offer and draw from. Real leadership has to come from being in the trenches yourself in some way. You just can't be a leader of something you haven't experienced or walked yourself. So I think leadership is a position the universe puts us in when we're ready for it. It just kind of manifests in some way once we have enough of that experiential nexus to draw from.
Okay, I love that you say that, because it's bringing in more of something I was listening to you talk about earlier, and I feel like it's coming together for me now. So this summit is most likely going to reach a lot of people who might be identified as wanderers or starseeds. And remember, you were talking about that even though that wanderers and starseeds aren't necessarily here for graduation, we still want to practice everything we need to do, right? Because we're here to help graduate. Yes. It's a numbers game, guys. Like the more of us doing it, the better it is for everybody. And since we're service to others, we're here to help by walking the walk. And I really feel like, you had talked about how important forgiveness is. And that's something I touch on all the time as well. Like, that is, if you want out of the karmic cycle, forgive. Mm-hmm. And if you're holding resentment, you had talked about maybe holding resentment towards third density.
Yeah.
But I can see what a gift it is, especially when it teaches us how to do what we are. So it teaches us how to be compassionate when that is what we are. It teaches us how to be loving to one another when we are love.
Yeah. Right on it.
So what? Thank you. But I just, can you add to that understanding for me about, because I see, so much of our energy is concentrated on getting out of this, but we are, you had used an analogy of color about what it would look like to move from third density into fourth density. You talked about, so third density being correlated to our sacral.
Yeah. Solar plexus.
Thank you. Solar plexus. So the yellow chakra. Yeah. Fourth being connected to the heart. And you used a great visual about what it would look like as we progress further into fourth. So full fourth density is green,
Yeah.
but you had talked about like this yellowish green to like a lime green and slowly going to this emerald green color.
Right.
So I just want to hear from your perspective how you interpret the third density, because we're still slightly in it, but we have opportunities to move more into fourth and go deeper and deeper within ourselves individually, but collectively. Where do you feel the human collective is kind of hanging out?
Yeah, we're at this interesting time in our planet's evolution where it's like a free for all, like who wants it? It's available, but
Right.
still very few people in the grand scheme actually want it, right? Most people are still asleep in the third density consciousness, live for myself, get a job, have a family, then I die. That's all there is. Fourth density is once we understand that we are something beyond the body. Because as long as there's body consciousness, you have to think you're a separate entity, right? Because,
Right.
hey, my body's over here. Therese's body is over there. So we're not one, obviously. That's all the evidence I need, right?
Right.
So when you understand you are energy, then you start to go, oh, yeah, I'm energy. All there is energy. Well, then, I mean, her body's just energy. My body's just energy. So I guess we're actually kind of one in that sense. And it's like the vibration's starting to pick up. We're slowly moving into a fourth or green ray vibration. And that's the color wheel, is like we're at this true color yellow, which is third density. And they ask Ra, how long do you think it'll take for us to make this transition into a true fourth density planet, or a true color green, as Ra would say. And they say, based on our estimations, it looks like somewhere between 100 to 700 years. So 100 in the best case scenario, 700 at the worst case scenario. But the planet itself, Earth, Mother Gaia, has actually been magnetized to fourth density now. So like, sorry, Illuminati, the game's over for you guys. Like, it's just a matter of time, right?
I love that you say that, because my team's always said, guys, there's nowhere to go but up. Like, don't fall into the fear trap. You are destined to ascend. It's like you can join that party, or you can think about it or not think about it and then come back
or don't.
About it some more. Right. But yeah, I love that you're saying that, because you're right. Like the planet has opened up to host fourth density life forms. And I'm sure many children that have come through are well into their fourth density. I mean, there's some amazing beings come to this world.
And as time goes forward, more beings are going to be born like this, who are just more spiritually awakened, because this planet is becoming more and more conducive to fourth density souls, right? And it's now not in that 100 to 700 years, it's still eligible for third density souls to incarnate, but only very, very late stage third density souls. Because you always have to incarnate in accordance to your vibratory level. That's where the universe will place you. So let's say my last lifetime, I just barely missed graduation. Let's say I was like 49% service to others, and you got to be 51.
Right.
The source says, okay, so, probably one more lifetime will do it for you. So let's find the latest stage third density planet we can find. And then, Earth, here's a great candidate, right? So even the third density souls being born here are advanced third density souls. And then, very, very early fourth density souls who just barely made graduation, let's say in their last lifetime. Earth right now is a great planet for them because it's conducive to their early fourth density learning. So as time goes forward, the old paradigm just dies out. Really, really unconscious souls, like the ones who run our planet right now, aren't going to be eligible to reincarnate here. They have to go find another planet that matches their vibratory level. So things will continue to even out as time goes on. And even the symptoms we're seeing in the world of all this, insanity and corruption manifesting into the light, like that is also a symptom of our ascension. Because ascension isn't just like butterflies and rainbows, right? It's like, let me puke out all my inner demons and face my shadow side and stuff. That's ascension, right? And then the bliss comes after that.
Well, and so what my team says to me, I love that you said that, because my team says to me, if you want to unify the world, you need to unify yourself first and become a unified field, right? So that
absolutely.
So that's what I mean when I hear you say unity consciousness. That's the first thing I think of. It's like unity includes you, right? So it's like, you've got to start with the unification of self. And so I love that you're bringing that up, because ascension, the promise of it is amazing. Like, what we're moving towards is going to be so incredibly beautiful. But you're right. To get there, we have to go through this Kali Yuga. And can you explain to the audience what Kali Yuga is? I mean, do you work with that term, the Kali Yuga cycle?
Yeah, like the cycle of destruction.
Well, as I understand it, because I haven't done enough research here, but as I understand it, the Kali Yuga represents like the very end. So as my team shows it to me, like they show the
astrologically.
Well, I guess it's a Vedic astrology maybe, but it's talking about this like end time period where there is some kind of destruction. But what I see it as is like the destruction of the false. Yeah, everything false
exactly
has to be destroyed. So can you share with the audience, you had talked about Shiva and Shakti and how that it's that story. So can you share that with the audience?
Yeah. So exciting to get into this stuff, man. The parallels are just so beautiful, how the universe is fractal.
Yes.
And that everything is just like the same thing happening at different dimensions of reality. So like I mentioned, the Kundalini activation in our body, there's a period we go through. There's different phases of Kundalini awakening. And one of the phases that happens after the heating phase is the Kali Yuga phase, the destruction, the dissolution phase, where it's literally a catabolic breakdown of the body, the cells of the body, the nerves, the nervous system. There's a cellular necrosis that happens. And during this period, like lots of acid reflux, a lot of really tough indigestion and acidity in the gut, as the gut being one of the centers of the nervous system is getting upgraded. Literally the old third density vibratory levels in our cells have to get burned off, and then the new gets constructed. So that's why Kundalini awakenings have a tough period, right? It's not just all easy. It's not all blissful. You have to weather the storm a little bit as the body's literally getting broken down from within and then rebuilt, so that inner genius can flourish and psychic abilities and the vision of oneness can happen, right? Your nervous system is learning to sustain fourth density vibration. So what's amazing to me, Therese, is how we're watching the planet go through her Kundalini activation right now. Because in the same way that each one of our neurons has to get broken down and then rebuilt, and we feel the pain, in the nervous system, you'll feel burning through your arms and fingers and feet and shins and everywhere in your body as you're going through this heating phase. It's a really amazing phenomenon that happens. Like that's what is happening to the planet right now, in that each one of us, each person is like a neuron for Mother Earth. And as each one of us is upgraded, right, ascends to fourth density, it's like the same process happening for her. So we're watching her go through her dark night and do her shadow work so that she can be truly upgraded to fourth density. And I think that's why we're seeing this harsh dividing line where there is no freaking way to be in the middle ground anymore.
No, like there isn't.
Like you don't have a choice. You're either in like, full victim Looneyville, or you're in like, I want to spiritually awaken and be one with God. There's really nothing in between anymore. And it's like, good, we want that. That's the cellular necrosis of Earth happening, where we're being upgraded. It's just a matter of time to weather the storm. So I think to be a wanderer, like you said, is to participate in the planet's awakening. Even if I'm not trying to graduate, right? I'm fifth or sixth density, let's say. It doesn't matter. I came here to aid this planet's awakening, which means I have to awaken. I have to ascend my consciousness. And I think that there's this weird, I don't know if I would say if it's fully a fear thing or just the lack of understanding of what oneness means and how ascension works. But a large part of the spiritual community gets really triggered if you talk about planetary change, things happening in the world, societal upgrades that are well needed right now from the old corrupt models. They're like, don't talk about the world. You're just making it worse. If you say anything about it, you strengthen it. La, 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 la. I'm just going to meditate. And I'm like, look, to be here right now and to not participate in humanity's awakening and upgrading to a fourth density planet is like being a wanderer who came here to help this society and just say, no, I'm just going to go over here and play by myself. I'm not going to work on my spiritual growth at all. It's like, okay, well, that's the whole purpose of why you're here. So it's like, get on board with the change. Don't resist it or be afraid of it. This is why you're here. You're needed, right?
Absolutely. And remember, to the audience, remember there's traps here, right? There's the ego trap of, oh, I'm a starseed or a wanderer, so I'm not here to graduate.
I'm above all this. Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't really have to play. No, you really have to play, because Earth is one of the hardest planes to do it. Let's talk about the veils of forgetting and the veils of confusion, because we, as wanderers or starseeds or light workers, whatever you resonate with, we still had to pass through these. That means to be here, you have to make authentic choice, right? Like, it's not what was my past life, okay, I'm going to choose that. You don't actually get to fully know it on purpose, so that you will really be in this game. Right. So
it's like a poker game, you can't know what your opponent's hand is.
Sometimes you don't know what your own hand is.
You got to learn the rules of the game.
That's right. And I love, like, so can you describe the veil of confusion? It's one of those topics where just talking about it is confusing. So how do you interpret that?
But when we understand it, like, we all feel so much better.
And because, well, it keeps passing back over us. Don't you experience that? I mean, that to me feels like your story you had shared before. Like, you went into clarity, and then whoosh, the veil came back. And so Ra talks about how we can pierce the veil through a certain level of spiritual discipline and effort, but not even fully pierce the veil, in the sense of, like, we'll never be able to have, if we're a wanderer, let's say, our at full sixth density waking memories and personality. Like, that's just the third density body isn't even capable of sustaining that. But we can pierce the veil in the sense of having that deep cellular knowing in my soul, in my bones, that I am here for a reason. I came to this planet to be of service. I'm not from here. I'm here to be of assistance. Your soul can remember that stuff. In the same way that, just after having a little amnesia, you would start to remember what caused your injury and stuff. Like, it would slowly come back to you as your vibration increased. We're sort of doing that right now in third density, because the veil is to protect that choosing from being infringed upon. Like, if you're going to play a game, you have to play by the rules of the game. If my neighbors, the kids in my neighborhood, are like playing street hockey, right? I can't be like, hey, can I play? And then I just start playing and like change the rules while we're going. And like, I win. I'm like, dude, get out of here. Like, you're ruining the game. That's kind of what the source does to wanderers when we come to third density. It's like, you don't get to bring all your supernatural powers and knowledge and just easily win the game, no problem, in 5 seconds. You have to play by the rules, which means you forget who you are. You don't bring your memories of past lives. You have to be just as confused as anyone else. And it has to be your native frequency that is strong enough to raise you higher than the third density plane, to where you do pursue spiritual growth and, want to activate your gifts and abilities. That's just what happens when you're an old soul. It's like, you can't be interested in the dense 3D stuff. Like, go out to the club every weekend and like drink and party. It's just like, barf, can I do anything but that? That's like what an old soul feels when they come here. Whereas a younger soul who hasn't experienced much of that thinks there's a lot to offer there and is excited and wants to go do that stuff. So there's no judgment anywhere. It's just about what level of growth you come from. And the veil is so that we don't know what game we're playing. We don't know that there's a important choice here. We have to naturally gravitate towards whichever polarity we want. And that's how the source knows that our soul's choice was truly authentic. It wasn't infringed on in any way. I love that. I mean, it's so refreshing to hear it too, because, we can hold, and more, I feel like we're going to be holding paradox, right? We're going to be holding this paradox of I am this, I have conscious awareness of higher density experience. I have that. And yet here I am as a human, right? And I see a lot of people struggle with that. They really, I don't know if that's a spiritual ego trap that we get into, but we struggle with our own humanity, which is like, it's so interesting because, right, everything about us is asking us to heal, merge and transcend. And yet there's also a very real part that we're having a human experience at the same time. And so we're being asked to hold these two very different experiences at the same time. So what guidance would you give people talking about feeling that paradox where, yes, you may already be an ascended being. You may already be quite a bit further on that journey, right? And yet you're also having this human experience where you are here as a volunteer to assist the raising of the vibration on the planet. What advice would you share?
There's a really great perspective, I think, that we can all have while we're here in the sort of crucible of third density. It's very easy to think, oh, I just can't wait to be done with this lifetime so I can go back to sixth density and be a light body out in the cosmos and, do whatever a sixth density being does. No suffering. Oh, it's going to be so much better.
Right.
And I say, maybe on one hand, in some sense, but the universe doesn't work that way, right? Where like some realm is better than another. It's like they're just different and they offer different experiences. So it's like there's actually something really special about being here right now. Sort of in the way that it's like our souls are watching all of us incarnate into this game, this virtual reality game, where we don't remember who we are. We don't get to keep all the powers and abilities. It's like, no, you go down there to see what you're really made of. And we're all up here watching. So it's like, this is the proving grounds, right? And how much more exciting is it when you don't have access to unfettered bliss and supernatural abilities and stuff, where you do have to wrestle with deep challenges and pain and emotions that you're not used to at your old realm. And you still get to become like a shooting star that everyone watches and goes, wow, look at what he or she was able to accomplish in that life. Look how radiant he or she became. Look how much they rose to their potential and unlocked it and became an example to everyone, like the Christs, like Buddhas, Krishnas. These are beings we call avatars because they stand through all of time because of the imprint they left. And it's like, what's more badass than that? What's more cutting edge than that? Just being in a realm where everyone's free and full of supernatural powers isn't actually that special in that sense. Of course, there is its own uniqueness and beauty, of course, but like from the context we're talking about, there's so much more meaning in that sense to be gained in third density, which Rob very much agrees with, because it is this like proving ground where you come to see what you're freaking made of, baby, and there's no lying about it. You can't cut corners here. It's pedal to the metal, So I think like I want to take advantage of the time I'm here and look back at this life and go, wow, that was badass. What happened down there? I didn't cower to the fear. I didn't want to leave and go, oh, get me out of here. It's so hard down here. Like that's lame, right?
I just saw you as this little beam of light going, man, that was so badass.
For real. That's the best life review, right?
I know, right? Like
man, that was gangster down there.
5 stars.
Yes.
I love that. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking, you know what? I wouldn't trade any of these moments of self-realization or aha moments. Like those are some of my favorite life moments I've ever experienced, is like when I do get those glimpses of remembering, even though of course I go back into doubt and, right. What was that? Am I making it up? But in the moment that I experienced that, I don't think I would do it again just to get that little glimpse, because I do believe you're right, we're here to experience ourselves.
Yeah.
It is a part of the game. It's not just learn things, it's not just make up for something. It's you want to know what you are. What if I take everything that you know about yourself away? Yeah. And I put you in this place where there's all this catalyst, all this opportunity, right? I like to call challenge opportunity to experience what choice you would make if you had no idea. If you had no idea just how amazing you truly are.
Yes.
What would you choose?
Isn't that what we all love watching movies for?
Oh, yeah.
Like we love watching characters get put into these incredibly challenging situations and watch how their inner strength or integrity rises to the occasion. In the moment of darkness and fear, they shine their light and they overcome. You're like, yeah, we all applaud. Isn't that what the universe is doing here?
Oh my God, I have like full body chills. Like, so my spirit team, who I always feel around me, they're like, yes, that's exactly how we're viewing you. Like they're sitting there going, oh my gosh. Like,
you're in the show.
Yeah, we are the show. We're like the greatest reality show in the universe is.
We are God's reality show. Exactly.
I love that. We should just put that as the title. We are God's reality show, because it's so true. So now I want to talk about just how do you see New Earth? So the title of the summit being New Earth Leadership. How do you see New Earth? Are we in New Earth in your perspective, or are we still creating it?
Yeah, you could kind of look at it both ways. You could say either or. But from a law of one context, I feel like we're definitely still creating it. Energetically, metaphysically, we've technically entered that next phase of evolution. But, in the same way that when you truly awaken and become illuminated from within, your diet changes, your lifestyle changes, your cleanliness, your habits change, everything gets upgraded because you see all the ways you were in such disharmony with life.
Yeah.
Even just having a messy room is a symbol of your messy mind, right? Yeah. In the same way that I just let certain thoughts just roam around and I don't really take any responsibility for them, is the same way that I just kind of throw my shirt on the floor because I got to go somewhere. Come on, I don't have time to put it back. It's this laziness, the spiritual laziness that translates to everything. You start seeing the upgrades in your state of consciousness reflected in your life. So in the same way, we have to see the upgrade of human consciousness reflected in our systems of society. We have to find new models that work for everyone. We all know the old models are heinously outdated. I was watching this hilarious video of, it was like in Congress or something. And this congresswoman was like so angry about how, I think it was Wisconsin, all the voter fraud they found there. And she's like, why are we still using paper ballots and these old stupid systems when we can put the whole election on the blockchain tomorrow and guarantee election integrity? Why aren't we doing it? Huff puff. And everyone there is like kind of snickering, like, because it's supposed to be this way, right? Like we don't want to upgrade because we want to hijack it. That's why it's the old. It's not like, oh, you're the first one who figured out that we're using an old outdated system. So it's like we're stuck in this old paradigm and it won't change until our state of consciousness changes, until enough people wake up to the fact that we don't have real elections. Then we won't want to change the system. We don't have a real food supply that's healthy. It's all corrupted. We don't have a real banking system. It's all corrupted. Until we become aware of that stuff, guess what, baby? It ain't going to change. The old system wants to keep this going for another 1,000,000 years if they can. So we have to change before it will change, right?
So you're nailing my next question, which is what's a tangible step that we could take to create the new earth? Because what I see is, what inspired me to talk about this is we have a lot of mythology around saviors. And I love Jesus. I love Buddha. I love ascended masters. I love our angels, everybody who's helping us. Thank you so much. And yet I see them as beautiful, loving parental figures watching the children. And the children are struggling to tie their shoes. That's just the metaphor that they use. Yeah. But they're not going to come down and do it. We got to figure it out. So sometimes, as a parent, you have letting your child struggle to get it so that they can realize that you can do it. If I keep tying your shoe for you, you're never going to recognize your own power, your own ability. And in this conversation that I'm having with my team, they're like, look, we're here. We're right here. We're so close and we're supporting you and loving you. We're talking you through this. And yet you're the ones who've got to shift this. Yeah. So if we're waiting for, God, I know I would love it if the ascension happened. We just had this flash and then everyone went, huh? I'm like, oh, we all just,
Yep.
figured it out, move forward as a more unified society. That would be incredible. But I sense, similar to what you've been talking about, like we're going through third density. We have to play this for real. I think this is a big, it could even be maybe our graduation test is, can we build this parallel structure that is actually in service to all beings? And how do we get started? Like, what's one step that we can take to start building something from wherever we are?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. How, like, again, it's all fractal, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that we don't upgrade our society by just like railing against all the bad systems and say, you're so bad, we're going to take you down. Well, what are you going to put in its place? You got a better idea? Because someone else is corrupt, will take their place right away.
Yep.
So we don't do that, right? We don't fight the old. We just build the new, and the old becomes obsolete. That's how the mind works, right? You don't say, I need to stop thinking that thought. It's like, good luck.
Right? As soon as you say that, that's all you're going to think, actually, right?
Yes. You don't think about the pink elephant. Stop it. Stop thinking about the pink, very pink elephant. It's like, it doesn't work that way. Right. You have to just say blue tiger, blue tiger, blue tiger. And then like the new starts to come in. So we have to do that now, just like with our mind. As we upgrade the mind, we just give attention to the higher vibrational thoughts, loving thoughts, forgiving thoughts. Eventually the old is replaced by those. So like, let's start getting together. Let's start joining in community. There's definitely no other way out of this, right, than joining hands and walking there together. And let's rely on one another's gifts and knowledge and abilities and start building better systems. Because man, do we ever have the technology and ability now to build way better systems. I mean, we have numerous forms of free energy technology right now. And even one free energy technology could solve virtually every world issue in the snap of a finger. So we don't need to rely on powerful, wealthy elites anymore. There's just this illusion they try to keep going that we're the ones who are your saviors. We will rescue you. So it's like you said, take your power back, realize you don't need a savior because you are the savior. You're going to save yourself and the world at the same time just by knowing who you are. Like the more of us who step into that and walk into that light, she's dancing.
I'm like a party. Yes, go ahead.
Like we inspire others to do the same thing when they see we're doing it, right? We remove their excuses for playing small ball with ego, and we give them a permission slip to step into their empowerment. So it all starts with the individual.
Yes. I love that. I love that because again, when there's so many beautiful souls in the world and so many that I've worked with who are very focused on service to others. They're like, they will give their blood, their heart, their sweat, and their tears to everyone else but themselves. And I keep trying to show them that service to others includes you. It includes you. And if you separate yourself, then you are separating just like the negative polarity. You're just doing it through martyrdom versus pure narcissism.
Great point. Yeah.
Right. So I love that you are reinforcing that. That is so true. It's when we think about world issues, it can feel overwhelming, right? Like, how the hell do we fix this? It's so messed up. But you're bringing it back to the most, it's like crystallized, most potent point, which is get back in touch with yourself, work with heal, love, forgive yourself. Have compassion that you're going through an incredibly tough experience. I mean, I'm re-listening to Dolores Cannon's 3 Waves of Volunteers, and all the people under hypnosis are like, it's so effing hard here. Like, I just want to leave. I want to leave. Like, they're talking to their teams, and their teams are, they're saying, I don't want to do this anymore. This is harder than I thought. We, from our observer perspective, from that separated place, we could look down on earth and be like, oh, I can help. Oh, I could totally help there. And then we get here and we're like, damn, this shit's hard.
Bit off a little more than I could chew there.
Right. Like who the heck did I think I was that I could do this? And the message I keep hearing is, you're the strongest of the strong. Not only did we volunteer, but we had to be selected. We had to be a vibratory match to do this.
Yes.
That's what I get. So I love what you're saying. I love how you're bringing it down to the simplicity of getting in alignment with yourself, become unified within yourself, do that work, raise your consciousness. In fact, let's talk about, and this is going a little long. I hope it's okay with you.
Totally. Let's go.
Okay. Let's go back to talking about the video series you're doing that I'm really enjoying all the information you're bringing forward. And that is spiritual intelligence. You're talking about spiritual intelligence. So can you just give a quick synopsis of what that series is for the audience?
Yeah, it's kind of was designed to be a new framework for seeing or understanding the enlightenment path that uses new terminologies and kind of just a little bit of a new angle at understanding what enlightenment really is. Because on my own experience of reintegrating that state, the first way it felt to me, Therese, when I slipped back into third density consciousness so dramatically, just like crash landed back into my ego, it felt like I was a lot dumber, but not in a linear analytical way dumber. It felt like something about my essence was like, I lost intelligence. Like, why can't I see the nature of things anymore? It was so clear to me. It was as if I was like more spiritually intelligent for those 2 weeks. And it was like the universe said, yes, that's another way you can look at it. It's a type of intelligence. The rising of self-awareness is really the rising of true intelligence, seeing reality the way it actually is. And so your SQ permeates into every other kind of intelligence, EQ, IQ, PQ. It will elevate everything because it's all connected. It's all one thing. IQ is just one form of intelligence. SQ really encompasses all of it. So I became really interested in this question of like, how would I define what spiritual intelligence is? And it took me many, many years to come up with a definition that I felt was somewhat accurate. And, we can't really say what it is in words, but we can point to it in better or worse ways, I think. And so for a while, it was like, okay, it must be something to do with self-awareness. Maybe that's what it is. It's just self-awareness. And I said, well, that's good. That's a good start, but it feels like something is still missing, because I felt like I was pretty self-aware, but I didn't have a great ability for a long time to integrate what I was aware of into my consciousness, into my lifestyle, into my interactions with others. There was like something missing. And I realized that was the feminine component of spiritual intelligence. The masculine is the self-awareness. The feminine is the integration, embodiment of that awareness. So the definition that sort of just came to me over time was that spiritual intelligence is our capacity for self-awareness and integration. It's really a capacity we have or don't have, like a funnel, right? How big is your funnel? That's how spiritually intelligent we can say you are. So there's no judgment in it, right? It doesn't mean there's such a thing as being spiritually stupid. It doesn't work that way. It just means your capacity is lower. Like a second grader doesn't have the capacity to pass a calculus exam. That doesn't mean they're dumb. That means that's where they are. That's the way it works with spiritual intelligence.
Okay, this is amazing. So I wanted to share with you, I had mentioned this before we started recording, but I wanted to share with you that you had mentioned 2016. Why is that year significant? Why is that?
That was the year I got divorced and moved back to California to kind of blow up my life and restart everything, and really where my dark night kind of began. So a very pivotal year for me.
And was that the inception point of your spiritual intelligence understanding? Is that how it's connected?
That came in 2017. That was when my spiritual awakening happened.
All right. So what I want to share with you is roughly around the same time as you were having your dark night of the soul. So 2016, I started channeling with my bestie, Rach Wilson. I started channeling this material that was coming through that they called holistic intelligence. And it talked about the 4 intelligences. And this is what's crazy. So it was physical intelligence, emotional intelligence, mental and spiritual intelligence.
Whoa, how crazy is that?
And here's so I started looking into this because it's all channeled. I'm like, this was coming in, and it was coming in so clear. And they even talked about like the different functions of this, but they were pointing out to me that there are neurons in each part of the body that corresponds with this intelligence. So of course we know the neurons of the brain, right?
Mhm.
There's also neurons in the heart. So that's
Yep.
where they call it heart intelligent. And then your gut, right? They call it the second brain.
Mhm.
So the gut has neurons, and a lot of our biochemistry for our brain is made in our gut.
Oh yeah.
But what I couldn't find, but I sensed it, is that in our bodies, right? So all our etheric bodies, right, we have these physical, you have your physical body, and then you have like your astral body and etheric
Right.
body, emotional, in there. And you said spiritual intelligence is all around us. There are neurons floating in this space as
Oh
well.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And so
Yeah,
I
very
just,
much so.
yeah, it's kind of amazing. So I love that you also received this information, because I think it's a key component. They're like, you're not using your whole intelligence if you're only using your intellect, if you're only
Right.
using your brain. In fact, you're asking your brain to do work it can't even do.
Yes.
So
Yep.
talk about the role of spiritual intelligence versus, like, a lot of people are learning now about emotional intelligence, right? That's actually new to a lot of people's conscious
Mhm.
awareness. So how is spiritual intelligence different from emotional?
Yeah. Well, it's like, again, it sort of just encompasses all of it, because emotional intelligence, we would say, is being aware of your emotions and where feelings are arising from and where you're speaking from in an emotional state and all that. But it's like, what's the prerequisite for that is awareness, right? Self-awareness. That's spiritual intelligence. So awareness can be there when there aren't emotions. You can be aware of other things other than emotions, the physical body, the mental body. So awareness is the prerequisite, right, for all of it, which is why it really does elevate every form of intelligence you have when you become more spiritually intelligent, which really is to say more self-aware and more embodied. In the spiritual intelligence series, as you know, I talk about the 3 states of mastery, which are another way of saying, again, just using different verbiage, the 3 stages of enlightenment. It's like there's 3 kind of hallmark stages that the Upanishads and the Vedantic texts, have taught of for thousands of years, that we reach these kind of enlightenment milestones. And the first one, the first state of mastery or enlightenment, is, I call it the I am state. And it's where the mind finally bows to the heart and stops trying to run the show.
Yeah.
Right? Mind-heart coherence, where the mind learns, you know what, I'm actually not at my best when I try to run the show all by myself. Let me listen to the intelligence, the intuition of the heart, and allow the heart to kind of lead the show now. And I'll be the co-pilot. And then the heart just really empowers the mind, because the heart's pure love. The heart empowers the mind with all of its intuitive intelligence that the mind doesn't have by itself. And so we enter this state of deep inner silence, deep presence with life. We find that we're just not worried or anxious anymore. We don't have desires. We don't have fears. We're just really grounded in the present moment. And that's what we want. That's where our happiness is. To me, that's what I call the I am state. I being mind, am being heart, integrate into one, into the present moment. It's like a meditation state. Like if you could just keep the meditative state that you have every morning on your meditation cushion and just carry it into your daily life, that's an easy way of understanding what the I am state is.
Yeah. I love that. I love what you just said there. I being mind, am being heart. I'm going to remember that when I use that term.
Masculine, feminine.
Masculine, feminine. Oh, it's just like I'm having a brain party right now.
A brain party. I'm going to use that one. I love brain parties.
I love brain parties. This has been so incredibly fun. I literally could talk to you. I could ask you so many questions and keep going and going. And I want to make sure that I remember to invite people to work with you, because you are going to be launching, by the time I think this reaches the public, it should be close to available, but you're going to be launching
Yeah.
an online membership. So let's talk about that. Tell me more.
Yeah, I sort of am putting all my courses into one sort of curriculum or membership platform that's going to make it about 10 times more affordable than they were before, selling them as singular courses. It's really hard to mimic, in the East. If you want to be enlightened, you go into an ashram and you walk out of your life, you leave everything behind, and you sit at the feet of a guru and you do whatever the guru says. That's what shows full devotion to the path in the East. But it's like in the West, we have this 9-to-5 work slavery we're all indebted to. We have families and stuff. We can't just drop everything and go sit in front of a guru at an ashram. So I've always been like, how do I mimic the same level of commitment and devotion in a system or a model that works for a Western society? And we know that number one, it's money. How much money you're willing to pay for something shows how much value you see in it. So I'm not at all against selling my courses for high price points because it's worked phenomenally well for me. Every single person, 300 plus, who've taken my masterclass, who paid the full price for it, all of them have left raving testimonials. So there's something about like giving value, you get value. But at the same time, I feel like we're at a point in our planetary evolution where we just need to help more people as much as we can. So I was thinking, how do I make a price point that still shows I'm committed? I'm not just here to, mess around or something. I'm all in. I'm going to do the practices. I'm going to learn the lessons, right? But that is more available and affordable for people. So the solution for me was a membership platform of a much, much lower monthly rate where you can just take each course individually and really dedicate yourself to it. So it's going to be called 4D University, obviously fourth density consciousness.
Love it.
And it's really like an online academy / ashram where there's as of now, there's just 3 courses, a 2-month, the second one is 2 months, and the third one is 3 months. And they're all prerequisites. So just like enrolling in a school, you have to take each one in order, but they will really move you from a place of third density consciousness systematically to fourth density consciousness. From the first course is called Master Your Mind. It's all about the mind training. The second course is called Meditation Mastery, where you get into a real deep meditation practice with breath work and, deep meditation to prepare you for the real humdinger, which is called 4DAP, which stands for Fourth Density Ascension Protocol. And that's where we get into like the really advanced yoga practices to really cleanse out the nervous system every day and purify third density consciousness out of the system so the Kundalini can start awakening within us and take us to a fourth density vibration. So it's like a very hands-on teacher training kind of program that lots of live calls and things like that. So all of that's going to be under the umbrella of 4D University.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Like, I'm like, I want to be in the AP class.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. I could lose my mind over it.
Yay. Well, I'm so glad that you're putting it out there, and what a cool inspiration that you received, that you were looking at, Eastern culture and how they're helping people move in their vibration and their consciousness. And you're like, how do I bring that here and still work within the confines of the Western world? And I love that. What a cool way to be inspired. I love that. This has been an incredible episode. I hope you, the audience, have taken away some real grains of wisdom and had your own aha moments. Please, as you're watching this, share your thoughts and impressions, and I will definitely forward that to Aaron so he can hear from you as well. So with that, I just want to give my love and appreciation to Aaron. Thank you for giving us time today.